Yishrael back at you one more time, one more again, with another good night's special. Yeah, I say good night because it's late evening this Thursday night. The name of this show will be called Late Night Bluntly Speaking with Yasha. Yes, Late Night Bluntly Speaking. I like that. Yep, I'm just sitting here chilling right at the crib in my man cave in the jazzy state of mind, But I want to talk about something. I want to talk about a couple things on the day. One thing that hit me on today I like to talk about. It hit me like a ton of bricks. And I really don't know how to get started. It hit me so hard. Something that I always known, but somehow I have gotten away from it, but my people have not. I want to talk about this thing called heathenism. I'm just going to be flat out. Just heathenism. What is it? What is heathenism? What is a heathen? What is a heath? Well, we'll start with a heath. A heath is the marshlands that is in the areas of what we call Europe, in Western Europe, right? Northwestern Europe, like England, Ireland, Scotland, the Hebrides, Hibernia, those areas, those regions. Places like Scotland, Ireland, Europe, England, the marshes of those areas. I would like to go look up a heath. Let's look up a heath and we'll see what a heath is. Let me share my screen here. No, we don't want to leave site. We'll cancel that. Present. Okay, there we go. Share screen. We're going to look up this word heath. Right? Just to get a broad understanding of what a heathen is. I mean, you can't even understand what a heathen is if you don't understand what a heath is. And it is not a candy bar. A heath. We share the screen here. Take a look at that there. I'll blow that up a little bit. Tab. Okay. Scroll down a little bit. Tap on this heath, right? British is a noun, British. A heath is an area of open, uncultivated land, especially in Britain, with characteristic vegetation of healthier gorse and coarse grasses. Here's a sentence. Horses were being exercised on the heath. Now we got similar Similar word, more. Look at that word there. Right? More. More land. Heath land. Scrubs. The heath. This late night bluntly speaking with Yasha. And we do got them L's, baby. Check it out. So, we're looking at this and we're studying this, right? Since a heath is an open area of uncultivated land, especially in Britain, vegetation of healthier gorse and coarse grasses. Looking at these words that is similar to words like more, a tract of open uncultivated upland, a heath, right? I love listening to the piano. Okay. Moorland, right? See, moorland, right? An extensive area of moor. So we just learned something new today, that Britain was moorland, right? Britain was heathland. And it is an open, uncultivated land, especially in Britain, right? Now we're going to look up this word heathen here. Just back up out here. And let's go to this word, just straight up heathen. This late night bluntly speaking with Yasha. We're gonna have a little ball here tonight. Push into how heathen. Now we notice how heath was moorland because the Moors was in Britain prior. The Moors were the original British prior to the 4th century. And after the 4th century, moorland became heathland, right? Now, what made the difference between the Moor and heath, right? This word, right? As we can see, heathen now, heathen, is now a derogatory word. It's a noun, and it says it's a person who does not belong to a widely held religion, especially one who is not Christian, Jew, or Muslim, as regarded by those who do, right? So that's basically saying that a heathen is a person who does not belong basically to Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, and that is as regarded by those who do regard the religions. Those who do regard those religions look at those who non-practice this religion as a heathen, right? But we see more, right, in heath. And we do know that these two terms relate to a people. Now, they both, it said similar. Heath was similar, not the same, but similar, right, to more. Heath was similar to more. And heath was a land, right? So, and heathen is similar to pagan, infidel, idolater, unbeliever, non-believer. Now let's look up the etymology of heathen. The etymology of heathen, of heathen. How? Okay, heathen, right? Germanic, Old English, heathen, Dutch, Haydn or Hayden, Hyde, like Heidi, right? Heidi, heathen, Germanic, heath, Old English, heathen of Germanic origin, related to Dutch Haydn, and the German Heidi, generally regarded as a specifically Christian use of a German adjective meaning inhabiting open country from the base of heath. Wow. Heath. So we talking about it was specifically Christian use of a Germanic adjective, right? So these Germanic adjective, a European adjective, a European people adjective, right? And it was the European describing those inhabiting the open country in their language, the people who lived in the land of the heath, the land of heaths in Britain, right? And they were seen as those who were not a part of the Christian, Muslim, and Jewish faiths. The Moors, right? And we can go back to that word. The Moors were a part of the Christian, Muslim, and Jewish faiths. We have history recording that in Spain, right? So we look up this word Moor, it has British, it's a tract of open land, upland, a heath, right? And we go over here to the far right, it says Moors with an S. The term Moors, derived from an ancient Mori, is an exonym first used by Christian Europeans to designate the Muslim inhabitants of the Maghreb, the Iberian Peninsula, Sicily, and Malta during the Middle Ages, right? Now, these Europeans saw the Moors as people of the book, people that were Christian, Muslim, and Jews, right? And when they came to the land of the British Moors, the British, right? Moorland, because it was Britain, it was British. The people of the British, right? The covenant man, the Moors, the blacks, right? The Muslims, the Christians, the Jews that were in that particular area, right? So when we pay attention, this was prior to the 4th century, and the Canaanites had been in this area for the longest time, right? Area mining for tin. So when the 4th century came around and the Germanic Christian tribes that the that the history books call barbaric tribes, right? Which were your Anglos, your Saxons, your Jutes, your Scandinavians, which, you know, your Burgundians. The Scandinavians had been there long before, but your Burgundians, your Vulgars, you know, your Vandals, you know. Notice Vandal, Scandal, like as in Scandinavians, right? Scandal, Ashkenaz, Scandal, right? Scandinavian, Vulgar, right? Look at these names of these people. They were very barbaric, and their names were the origin of the attitudes that lately followed. Vulgar, right? Barbaric, you know, Vandals, you know, Scandal, as in Scandinavians, like scandal, scandalous, right? People who were very much connected to their Gothic origins, their Guti origins, right? Very warlike people. And when they came into the British moorland, they interpolated and interloped themselves into that land, in that region, and they became the people of the British, and the land no longer became known, the land no longer was known as moorland, but became known as heathland, right? The land of the heath, right? And we're not talking about, heath is not a person, but things, right? Like an area, a place with real coarse and a heavily vegetated grasses, right? And the heathen were the people that lived in these marshes. The heathen became the scandals, the vulgars, right? The Saxons, the Anglos, the Jutes, you know, and the Vandals, right? They came into this particular land and they became the heath. Now, heathen, as we can see by definition, was the people. Heathen was the people who did not have or was not a part of an organized religion, who lived in the countryside, who lived in the heaths. They were not city people, for the Moors were city people, right? And they were religious people who harnessed Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, right? So a heathen, by definition, is a person who has not embraced Judaism, Christianity, Islam, or any of the major religions of the world. That's what a heathen is, right? I want to talk about the heathen. And when I talk about the heathen, then we can understand what heathenism is. And we can begin to have the discussion that's been on my mind about heathenism. Heathenism is something that has plagued not only the African American, but because it hit him first, right? But it has plagued the entire world. And it is the lifestyle of the people that were non-religious, right? That were not a part of any religious organization, that lived in the heaths and the marshes, in the open land of Britain, right? And these people were none other than entering into Europe as your Anglo-Saxons, Burgundians, Vulgars, Scandals, and Vandals, right? I mean, not Scandals, Scandinavians and Vandals, right? Wow, I mean, that those words still ring evidence. It rings bells, and it's evidence of their existence and their job and their role in history, right? Now we're talking about these particular groups of people in history. We're talking history here. We're talking about heathenism. There's some sector of the African American community that is at war with the Bible. There is a sector of the African American community that is at war with God. There is a sector of the African American community that is at war with religion altogether. Now, by definition, that person would be a heathen, right? Okay? By definition, by the English definition, right? The only thing about that differ is that this African American sector, not the whole community, but just a small sector inside of the African American community, they're African and they're not more. They're more Moorish in genealogy and not related to the people that actually lived in the heaths and the marshes, right? Because there were two types of people. There was the heath and the Moors, right? The heathen and the Moors that lived in heathland, which previously was moorland, right? And the religious people. Yeah, religion thrived. Christianity, Judaism, and Islam had arrived into Europe before the Europeans. Christianity and Islam came after the 4th century, for Hebrews were already in Britain prior to the 4th century, for they were amongst the Moors, right? And they had been amongst the Moors because the Moors were in Spain as well as the Jews again, right? Judaism, So this sector, there's a sector of a small sector of African Americans, which is actually becoming very influential. Hold on for a second. Let me go get my juice here. I left my juice over here. So this sector has been pushing rhetoric that it is religion, the Bible, and God and God's people and godly people, God-believing people, that is responsible for the chaos in this world. That's responsible for African Americans being at the bottom, right? That everything bad that happens and the African American community is by the hands of those that believe in God. This is an atheistic, a neo-atheistic approach. That religion is responsible, and God that is responsible for all the negativities and the wrongdoings that has ever happened on the land. Nothing could be further from the truth. There are those who have proposed that it was Christianity that enslaved African Americans. I am an African American, and I hear this as a religious proponent, right? As a man who proposes religion, I hear it all the time from the non-believers, some of the reasons why they don't believe and why they refuse to believe and just don't want to hear it. I've heard that it was Christianity that enslaved African Americans, right? And that the God of Christianity allowed this enslavement, right? That Christianity was a quote-unquote white man's religion or European religion or the religion of the other folks. Yasha ben Israel, bluntly speaking, late night, bluntly speaking with Yasha. I haven't did a live in a long time. It's been a while, y'all. It's been a while. I got flagged. I think I told y'all about it. I had gotten flagged for posting a video about the Dalai Lama. And it kind of discouraged me from making videos because YouTube is just so funny, with their rules, It's funny because I still see the video up right now, and that video got like 3 million views. Still going. And YouTube can pay these people. But they flagged me. But anyway, Christianity is a religion. A religion can't enslave no one. A religion can only be followed and adhered to, and maybe even manipulated by wicked and bad men. Christianity conquered the heathens. The Moors conquered the barbarians. And Christianity became a dominant religion in the land. It was followed by the creators of the religion, and it was followed by those who converted or embraced the religion. The converts, the Heaths, the Germanic tribes, were a non-literate people until Christianity came up on the scene, until the Moors gave them Christianity. I say the Moors, this is Yasha ben Israel, late night, bluntly speaking. Hit that like button. Subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. I need y'all to hit that subscription button. Late night, bluntly speaking with Yasha. So the Moors converted these Germanic people, right? And these Moors were British, right? These Moors converted these Germanic people, And these Germanic people no longer were called Anglo-Saxons, Burgundians, Jutes, Vandals, right? Scandinavians, Ashkenaz, Goths, Visigoths. They were no longer these Gothic tribes. They were converted into Christianity, and in the land of the heathen, they became they went from being the heathen, the non-believer, and they crossed over into the Moorish religions, and they became the Christian, the Muslim, and the Jews of today. So these converted heathens became dominant in Britain, Ireland, practically the entire world. And in this dominance, they end up enslaving the Moors, make it quite simple, and other Africans. The religion didn't do it, the heathen did. The converted heathen did, right? Being that the heathen was a convert and that the Moors and the architects of the religion, St. Augustine, Tertullian, right? These Moors were the architects of these religions. All of this stuff is happening around the 4th and 5th century, mind you. All of these names, characters. This is why it's important to study history, right? So these heathens converted. When I say heathen, I'm making it short for the Germanic tribes that did not believe in any established religion, especially that of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. So these heathens enslaved the Moors and the Africans. They did it all throughout the land, right? Even as far as Spain. Hit that like button, that share. Most importantly, that subscribe. This is late night bluntly speaking, and the blunt is talking. Can't you hear it? Late night bluntly speaking with Yasha. So when these Christianized heathens gained dominance and began to circumnavigate the world and conquer the West, they began to enslave the Moors. Who is this they? I'm talking about this they was Christianized heathens, right? And these Christianized heathens did not follow Christianity in the manner of the Jews. And we can see this written in the records of the Apostle Paul, going as far back as the Pauline letters, the book of Galatians, and the book of Romans, right? The book of Corinthians. Paul wrote about these type of sentiments. This is late night bluntly speaking with Yasha. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. I tell y'all I need the subscriptions to go up. right? Notice definition was, an infidel and all of this, right? And the definition was the people who lived in the open lands, right? That did not believe in any of the established religions, right? Especially those that are Christianity, Judaism, Islam. These people were Germanic people. And you can see in the definition it said, especially in the areas of Britain, right? In the land of Britain. England, right? Early England. Because England is the land that it became afterwards. First it was known as British, right? Britain, Britannia. When it was up under the dominance of the Moors. And then it became Anglo-land under the dominance of the Anglos, the Saxons, the Jutes, and all those other Germanic Gothic tribes, right? Now, heathen should be synonymous with Gothic. I don't know why they didn't do it, but it should be synonymous with Gothic, right? So when these heathens, these Gothics converted to Christianity and enslaved the Africans, there were many Africans that were neither Christian, Muslim, nor Jew. But they could not really be heathens because they were not from Britain. It said especially those from Britain. These people did not fit that description wholeheartedly. Especially did not fit them. So they could not really be heathens. But they were not Christian. Many of them were not Christian. Many of them were Jews. Many of them were Muslims. Many of them were participating in other African religions, that had nothing to do with Christianity. So in the conquering of these people, they converted these people to a form of heathenized Christianity. And it was not the Christianity of the original Moors. For the original Moors, their Christianity held on to the law. The heathenized Christianity did not. And this was a part of what you call interloping and interpolating. It was this process that these people did. But to make a longer story much shorter, it was not a religion that converted the African people. It was a people that converted an African people. And it was basically the Gothic or the heathen tribes or people, right? Or clans, if that's what you want to call them, that converted the African people to a heathenized version of Christianity. In reality, the Africans were very, to this form of Christianity, they didn't accept it. They really didn't accept it. For the first slaves down in the islands, were rebellious against the Christians and anything that they had to offer them. They had big revolts and rebellions. But to make a long story short, Africans never really embraced Christianity. A small fragment of them did, right? But it never took mass, right? They accepted it as far as this is what this is, but none of them were ever real practitioners. And we know this because today, when we look at the world today, the average American is not a religious person. He may say he's a Christian, but being a Christian is much more than saying you're a Christian. These people believe that Christianity is the religious way to go, or the proper way to God, but these people don't practice. And to say that the Bible, God, people, or anything like that has corrupted African people or African American people is a person who don't know history, who don't know Christianity, surely don't know the Bible. Because it wasn't the Christianity, the Judaism, or the Islam that corrupted the people. It was the heathenism. It was the lifestyle of the heathen that these people adopted that corrupted the people. The evidence of that, the intrinsic forensic evidence of that, when we look at our eyes, open our eyes and look at the society, most of the people are not Bible readers. And that's the African American community, the European community, the Chinese community, the Arab community, and even the Jewish community. Most African Americans are not biblical people. They say stuff and they heathenistic stuff, right? But the stuff that they say is really not biblically religious, right? You know, I don't think it applies to rapper after he said all that crazy stuff in his song. He said, then he topped it off, and I believe in Jesus. You know, he talked about the killing and selling dope and thugging on these streets. And I guess it was all okay because he believed in Jesus. See, that's very heathenistic. Right? It's not biblical. If the African American was so corrupted by Christianity in contrast to European, Anglo-Saxon, English American heathenism, if he wasn't corrupted by that, then why is it that he eats pork? And the Bible tell you not to eat it or you shouldn't even touch it. But the Gentiles, well, Paul said they got to keep the law, that form. You don't follow, because Paul said that the Jews had to keep the law. They were the oracles of God. But the Gentiles didn't have to keep the law, That form of heathenism accepted the European way of life, his values. And what I'm saying is that even though he claims to be a Christian, his Christianity has become heathenized. For the heathen interpolated and interloped his heathen culture into Christianity. So to the point to where Christianity has become pure flat out heathenism. It forbids same-sex marriages and sexual relations, right, and copulations. But yet and still you can see that all throughout the religious world. It forbids the eating of certain foods, and Christianity allows this eating of forbidden foods, right? The Bible calls to keeping of the Sabbaths and the high holy days, and the European Gothic heathen had interpolated and interloped European and Nordic holidays over that which the Bible told you to keep. The Bible told you to keep the Sabbath. It told you to keep days like Yom Kippur and days like like the Day of Atonement, right? And stuff like days like the Feast of Tabernacles and stuff like that, right? So to the point where the Moors and the Africans already had a moral and spiritual base. African American, as well as the world, has been influenced and or corrupted by heathenism, not by Christianity, not by Judaism, and not by Islam. That's one of the things that I want to talk about. It is the culture of the European because he interloped, right, and interpolated. Let me look up these words to give you a better understanding of what I'm trying to say here. Interlope, right? Interlope means to become involved in a place or a situation where one is not wanted or considered not to belong. The Gothics, right, the heathen, he had become involved in the land of Britain, right? When he didn't belong there because he invaded. If you read about the 4th century Gothic invasions of Britain, they wasn't wanted there. They did, and they didn't. They was never really considered to belong there, right? Also, we talking about the place now, the situation that they were involving themselves in, and they wasn't wanted and wasn't considered to belong there, was their religions, right? And we're gonna look up interpolate, right? This is what they did. Now, interpolate means to insert something of a different nature into something else. And that's what they did with the land and the situation and the religion. They inserted something of a different nature into it. They inserted a Gothic nature into the land of Britain. And they, in Spain, yeah, and the Americas. All of these lands were lands that were dominated by the Moors. All of these lands were the original Moor land, right? So they inserted themselves, you know, they inserted a Gothic nature inside of the land and inside of the religions. And this is how Yahweh and Elohim became God and Goat and Odin. Ooh, fire. This is how thou shalt not eat the swine, neither shall you touch his carcass, became a barbecue in the front or backyard. A barbecue with hogs and porks and things that was unlawful to eat. Because it was an interloping, right, of Gothic nature inside of Moor land and Moor situations, which was their religion and their culture. And in this interpolation, right, heathenism ruled and reigned and became dominant. So what I am trying to tell people is that African Americans, my people, have become more influenced by the heathenism than they ever did by the religion or the situation. Whether the situation was religious Yo, peace. That was part of a recording of last night's show. Uh, I just had a problem. The internet knocked me off, but I'm going to hold this up. And I'm going to continue and I'm going to air it again later on today, somewhere between 3 and 6 o'clock. I'm going to air the video again starting from beginning. So, uh, just for others who are listening and those that will listen, do know I'm going to play the whole segment from last night. That was a pretty good show. I was talking about a whole lot. I hadn't even began to even. I was just starting to open up, but in any event, I am going to end this segment because of technical difficulty, and we're going to do it again later on at 3 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, we're going to start over, and we're going to re-air last night's segment. And even last night's segment has to be uh, last night's segment. We were playing a recording because it's raining up here, and somehow I'm having problems with the internet. So I don't know what's going on. And my bill is paid. I don't get it. But in any event, we're going to retape this again, and we're going to redo this again at 3. I'm going to hold this up and redirect you all back over here at 3 o'clock, and we can listen to the whole try to play last night's segment one more again.